Hello and welcome. This session is the seventh in a series of modules that will provide resources and tools for school leaders in preparation for leading in a remote learning environment this school year. Thank you for taking the time to view this module. We hope that you find the learning, resources, and tools helpful. Let's get started. This slide represents the strategic priorities across all of the Department of Education. The professional development training and resources that are being offered align with our educators' priority. And we hope that the resources that we provide offer the support that you need to ensure that teachers, staff, and students are on a path to success. Take a look at this quote. High achievement always takes place in the framework of high expectations. This is a quote from Charles Kettering. As you think about this school year, what is one expectation that you have for yourself? One expectation that you have for your teachers and staff? And one expectation that you have for students? Take a moment to capture your thoughts. If you are viewing this module as a group, please discuss. Pause the recording here and discuss your reflections. As you are thinking about the expectations that you have for your school community, I anticipate that you'd set high expectations for each stakeholder group, hoping for and expecting only the best. As a leader, you likely set expectations that stretch capacity and inspire greatness, which is expected, but also consider the supports that might be necessary in order for those expectations to be met. You are in a position to create a framework that ensures success. Let's further explore how setting expectations are essential for success in a remote learning environment. Take a moment to read the objectives for this session, as they will guide the time that we spend together. Now let's take a moment to review our agenda for today's session. Let's get ready to dive in. As a leader, you are responsible for setting the overall expectation for the school's implementation of remote learning. Let's look at a few key points to consider when setting expectations. I'll give you a moment to read them now. While setting expectations for your teachers, staff, and students is not new, there are some nuances with remote learning that should be considered. As you enter into remote learning, you likely have some ideas of where expectations will be needed, and you might find that additional explicit expectations are necessary for this context. Clearly articulating expectations and ensuring that stakeholders are accountable to those expectations will be important for success in a remote learning environment. You set the pace and tone by ensuring the expectations that you set are translated into day-to-day habits to promote an environment of deliberate action, accountability, and achievement. Resource number one that accompanies this module offers guidance for setting general priorities and expectations for the student experience in the remote learning environment. These expectations should serve as a clear focus for instruction and culture, responding to the following priority areas. 1. prioritizing instruction for students, particularly for vulnerable populations. 2, supporting the student's emotional needs and unfinished learning needs. And 3, advancing and preserving student learning no matter the instructional delivery model. In a moment, you pause the recording to download and review resource number 1 entitled General Priorities and Expectations in a Remote Setting. This resource will be useful as you continue the planning process to develop specific expectations for remote learning. Pause recording now. When you have finished this portion of the planning, resume the recording and we will proceed. The Department of Education understands that local context across the state may not allow students to return to in-person learning at the start of the school year. The department encourages districts to prioritize in-person learning with younger students and vulnerable students. The expectation is that all students receive daily instruction and not just content delivery. Some examples of instructional delivery are seen here. Synchronous lessons with student engagement, synchronous discussions, synchronous question and answer, phone-based question and answer, and phone-based feedback on student work are just some examples. Examples of content delivery will be a 30-minute video lesson or a 45-minute online module, perhaps a 1-hour work packet with guided questions and writing tasks, or an asynchronous recorded lesson. Even in remote models, there is an expectation for high levels of student engagement. In a moment, you will pause this recording to engage in planning of schedules for an instructional day based upon your school's context. The continuous learning plan requires you to provide an instruction breakdown by grade and band, so let's spend some time to plan that out fully. Resource number 2, entitled What is an Instructional Day, is likely familiar to you as it comes right from the department's website under the COP resources. You will use this document to inform your planning for your daily schedules. Pause the recording here so that you can download resource number 2 and begin to plan your instructional schedules. Now that you have clear expectations for an instructional day and a schedule for daily instruction that reflects those expectations, let's think about how students will receive feedback as they engage in remote learning. John Hattie stated that the most powerful single modification that enhances achievement is feedback. Feedback can help students to develop and refine their thinking, make sense of misconceptions in their learning, and support students to improve the quality of their work. Student feedback should be a non-negotiable expectation for remote learning. The feedback should be of high quality, specific, timely, goal-oriented, and actionable. Teachers should expect to provide feedback to their students on a consistent basis. In the remote setting, that feedback can be provided via phone call, email or text message, video conference, comments or annotations in a shared document, or video screencast of a teacher's feedback. Resource number 3, entitled Teacher to Student Feedback Expectations, offers some guidance and recommendations of how to approach teacher to student feedback in a remote setting. Using this document as a resource, capture the expectations that you will have of teachers for providing feedback to students. Be sure to include frequency and delivery mode in your expectations. In a moment, you will pause the recording so that you can download resource number 3 and craft your expectations for teacher to student feedback. When you are finished, resume the recording, and we will close our out together. As we close our time together, let's revisit the objectives for this session. We explored how setting expectations is essential for success in a remote environment. You created a schedule for the instructional day for a remote setting. And you determined expectations for feedback to students in a remote learning setting. Thank you for viewing this module, but more importantly, thank you for all of your hard work in planning and preparation to ensure a path of success for the teachers and students in the state of Tennessee. We hope that you have found these resources to be relevant and useful. Best to you as you start this school year.